What's up, you guys? Thanks for joining. Today I'm going to talk to you about the three main ways that real estate investors can build massive wealth over time, over the long term, with rental properties. Before we get started, I just wanted to highlight a few things from the past couple weeks. I'd read a new book that I had been avoiding for a while just because the title is kind of cliche, which made me for whatever reason think that I wouldn't like it, but I ultimately loved it, and it's now probably my top three favorite books, especially for real estate investing, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or experienced. I highly recommend checking it out. It breaks down strategy, mindset, and actual. It has charts and all sorts of stuff that break down real estate investing strategies from all sorts of investors, from you and me alike to the pros, and how they built their wealth over the years. So that book is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and I do have a link below, so go check it out. And there's two additional links below. One is for Amazon Kindle, which I also just bought and I avoided for several months. I don't know why. It's an ebook, and honestly, for whatever reason, I love it. I can't stop reading, and I've never been a big reader, but for whatever reason, with the Kindle, my attention span has been longer, and it's great because you don't have a physical book. You can just crush through the pages, and you can change the screen lighting as well. So if you're reading at night, you don't have to have a light or a headlamp on in bed or something like that. And the last one is Audible, which is one of my favorite tools ever because I do like podcasts. And if you like podcasts but don't necessarily like reading physical books or the Kindle, you can pretty much find any book in the world, at least that I've searched for, on Audible. And you can listen to it anywhere, whether you're working out driving around, walking around the house, things like that. And you could really crush through whatever it may be. Maybe it's real estate investing strategy books or novels or biographies, whatever piques your interest. A link to Audible, you can do a free trial for Audible below. All right, so the three big ways that real estate investors, from beginners to, again, experts, they all got to start from ground zero. So the three major ways that real estate investors are able to build wealth, significant wealth long term, are one, from cash flow, and that is cash paid to you each month, right? So if you're doing a long-term rental, you have renters paying based on your lease agreement, rent each month. And you take that minus all of your expenses and the mortgage payments and other variable expenses that come with the upkeep of the property, things like that. That is what you're left over with, is your net cash flow, and that's coming to you in your pocket each month. And you can reinvest that into new real estate properties or use that to support other things going on in your life, whatever it may be. Number two is loan paydown or equity paydown. So in real estate investing, the beauty of it is once you take a loan out from the bank, right, you have to pay principal, interest, taxes, and other things. So when you have a renter in there paying you each month, obviously you're covering all your expenses, and you have your cash flow, and then part of your expenses, the major part of it is principal and interest. So principal is what you're paying down, principal into the house. Interest, again, is what the cost of doing the loan through the bank. So with loan pay down, each month, if you look at an amortization schedule, and if you're not familiar with that, amortization schedule is just the schedule of the loan. So if you're doing a 30-year traditional fixed term loan from the bank, you're going to be paying some amount of principal and some amount of interest from year 1 all the way out to year 30 every month to the bank, okay? So the way it works is at the very start, you're paying, the bulk of it is going to be interest and a small portion is going to be principal. The reason the banks do this is so they can collect on the majority of their investment in you. You could think of it that way, or their loan to you up front. And over time, actually every single month it adjusts slightly. Principal gets a little bit bigger and interest gets a little bit smaller. So over the course of 10, 20, and up to that 30-year mark, by the end, each month you're actually having more principal paid down than interest as time goes on. So I'll show all of you guys this on the whiteboard here in a minute and how this looks, but think that the renters are essentially paying the loan down for you, and so they're building equity in the property, which you get to keep all that equity. And three, and this is really just icing on the cake, but this is appreciation. Typically appreciation grows at a faster pace than inflation rate. So over time, your property is actually going to increase in value. So most people say anywhere from 2 to 5%. Some people say higher than that. It really just depends if you're in a high growth area and the housing market is growing. But over time, I would say I typically calculate about a 3% appreciation. Some people, again, do higher. So what's really cool about this as a real estate investor is that when you put down, let's say 10 to 20% of the property value, and let's say it's a $100,000 house. So you put down, let's say 20%, $20,000. As the house appreciates over time, you're getting the appreciation value. You get to keep the equity in the house. Say it appreciates 10%. So now it's at a $110,000 house. You get that extra $10,000 is yours to keep. That's your equity in the house. And what's cool about that is you get the full appreciation of the $100,000 of whatever appreciation you accrued to. That's yours to keep, even though you technically only own 20% of the house at the time. So again, that's the really cool thing about real estate investing is although the bank technically owns the majority of the house, you as the investor get to reap the benefits of the appreciation long term. And the last thing I'll say about appreciation is as the loan gets paid down and the house appreciates over time, let's say 5-10 years down the road, you started with 20% equity. With appreciation and loan pay down, you might have built up to maybe 30, 40, or 50% equity in the house. And what you can do is something called a refinance or take a home equity line of credit out. So when an appraiser comes in and appraises your house, let's say for $150,000, now you have that original $20,000 plus whatever you've paid down in equity. Let's say it's $5,000 plus the additional $50,000 from appreciation. Now you have over 70 grand of equity in the house, and you could refinance the house or take a home equity line of credit, basically you can borrow against your house and take that money and invest it in another property or take the cash out for another investment. So there's a lot of really cool things that real estate investors do. The book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, he talks about a lot of these different strategies and how to get the best return on the equity you have in each property. So again, I recommend that book. I got a whiteboard out and I'm going to draw a little bit of a depiction on how this works for you guys, okay? So for example, each bar on the chart here represents the total cost of the house from your initial purchase. So we're going to look at today, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 30 years from now. And I'm not going to use specific numbers just for the simplicity of the example, but it's applicable to any real estate investment that you may make. And it's going to be based on a 30-year term loan from the bank. So today, right, this is how much the property is today, and we put down 20% down on the house. So this is our equity in the house, okay? And the remainder of it is owned by the bank, okay? So this is how much we owe the bank. All right, so as you recall, over time, this is going to start to grow because our loan pay down from our renters is going to increase over time. So the amount we owe to the bank is going to decrease, and the amount of equity we build in the house from loan pay down is going to increase as well. Remember, number one thing for real estate investors that we look for is cash flow. So today we're going to start out, whether you're long-term renting and you have a lease agreement or you're doing short-term rental, we're still going to expect some type of cash flow at the start. So the purple color at the top represents the cash flow we're getting each month. All right, so now we're at year 10, and as you can see, we've now built up the amount of equity that we've paid down through loan pay downs from our renters. And again, remember, over time, this is going to drastically increase because when you look at an amortization schedule, the amount you pay each month in principal is going to increase over time, and the amount you pay in interest is going to decrease. Now, what's really cool is after 10 years, the home is probably appreciated a significant amount. So now we can account for this. Remember, this is just icing on the cake. Now, what the orange is going to represent is everything in orange is from appreciation is also equity in the house. So your house is actually worth more today, and you get to reap all the benefits of appreciation. The other really cool thing about cash flow is typically over time, for a long-term renter, rents typically increase over time, right? Inflation occurs and rent just typically follows suit. So you're actually going to be making more money over the years in rent, and certainly with the short-term rental, as there's more dollars fluctuating throughout the economy as the Fed keeps printing money and things get inflated. We see it right now with the coronavirus going around, the Fed creating stimulus packages. I was trying to help businesses and small businesses alike, but ultimately it devalues the dollar. So investing in real estate is also protecting you against inflation, where if you're just having money in a savings account, ultimately you're losing money long term. So again, purple cash flow, orange is appreciation, red is the amount we owe to the banks, and then blue is equity we've built in the house through loan paydown. Now, after 20 years, you can see that we've significantly built equity in the house through loan paydown. And we have another 10 years of appreciation buildup, which is now going to be significantly more than it was previously. And again, our cash flow is probably increased because rents typically increase year over year. And again, the price for a short-term rental stay on a per night basis is going to slowly increase over year over year as well. Now, lastly, this is the Hail Mary for us real estate investors, thinking long term, right? So at the end of the 30 years or whenever the house is paid off, you have nothing left to owe on the house to the bank, right? So now you have built all of this equity is all yours. That's basically money in the bank, and it's going to continue to appreciate over time. Now, the coolest thing about this, once the house is paid off, your cash flow is going to dramatically increase, right? So if you were making, let's just say, I don't know, $200 a month on a long-term rental for a one-bedroom house, once your loan is paid off, if your principal and interest was $1,000, now all of that money is going to be applied to cash flow because you're no longer paying down the loan. So now it's going to be the $1,000 plus the $200. So your cash flow dramatically jumps up. And so once you have paid off properties, you could think of this as like a retirement nest egg. And 30 years from now, not only do you have all of the equity built in the house plus the appreciation from the house appreciating over years, but you're actually going to have a dramatic increase in cash flow. And again, if you pay the house off sooner, your cash flow is going to dramatically increase as soon as that's paid off because you don't have to take your biggest monthly expense each month is going to be the principal and interest pay down to the bank. So again, you guys, you can see how this really compounds over time and why real estate investing, in my mind, if you do it right, is not that risky and is extremely rewarding because you're going to outpace inflation with appreciation and your rents are actually going to increase. And that's all just from that small, 10 to 20% down, whatever you put down on your, first, second, third, fourth, fifth rental. And over time, the renters are going to be paying you cash flow each month. The house is going to be appreciating and the renters are going to be paying down the loan on the house. So you're ultimately building equity. Again, the three ways that real estate investors build significant wealth long term is going to be from cash flow. Again, you can see this increases and dramatically increases at the end. Equity pay down drastically increases over time because the principal pay down through an amortization schedule is going to increase over time each month. And then lastly, appreciation, again, which is icing on the cake, but that's also going to compound over time because once the house gets more expensive and let's say appreciation is steady at 3%, if a $100,000 house appreciates 3%, that's $3,000. But if your house appreciates over time, 3% of $200,000 is going to be $6,000. So you can see over time that you're just basically sitting on a golden egg, right? And that could be your retirement. It could help you achieve financial freedom. Once you're here, again, as we said earlier, you can take money out of the house as a home equity line of credit, refinance, and allocate that money to another rental. Or once you're debt free, you can keep this process going. Say you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 houses, whatever you want to build your little real estate empire to be. This is possible for anybody who sets their time to it, sets a budget, and makes things happen. And ultimately, you gotta learn about it. Again, read books, watch YouTube, and you have to get your feet wet. I think the ultimate way to learn is to trial by error, but the more you know up front, the more it'll help you avoid some of the silly or common mistakes that a lot of people run into when they first get into real estate investing. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe below. If you want to get notified when I post new content, you can also hit the little ring button next to the subscribe button. That'll just notify you when I post the new content and it's uploaded to my YouTube channel. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.